Once, long, long ago, when the world was young, there were no humans, just vices and virtues. And all the vices and virtues, compassion, rage, kindness, sloth, vengeance, jealousy, creativity, they're all standing around one day, and creativity said, you know what we should do? We should play a game. Let's play a game of hide and seek. And madness said, I want to be it, I'm on. Everyone else go hide. 1, 7, minus the square root of pi. And all of the vices and virtues ran, began to hide. Rage went and smashed up a mountain and hid herself under the rocks. Stealth covered himself in bits of moss and leaves and clung onto the side of a tree. Jealousy thought that was a very good idea. So she did the same. Serenity made his way down to the beach, forgot all about the game, and began to contemplate the universe in a grain of sand. And one by one, they all hid. Until finally, madness, 753 elephants, go! And stood right there was patience. Is it time to hide? Gotcha! And of course, madness found rage right away just by following the big pile of rocks. And serenity on the beach. And eventually, stealth and jealousy. And he gathered all of them. He gathered all of them back into the forest. And he was sure he had all of them, but when he counted, there was one missing. And it was love. Love, come out. Come out, love, because if you don't come out, I don't win, and I don't like to lose. Love, come out. And madness had looked everywhere. He'd looked on top of the mountains, around the beaches, all through the trees. There was only one place he hadn't looked, which was under all the leaves on the forest floor. Love, come out. Come out now. He grabbed a stick. Love, no sign of her. So he just began to plunge the stick into the leaves, and there was a scream. And when he brought the stick up, there was blood on it. And up from under the leaves came love. She said, Madness, what have you done? What have you done? I can't see. There's blood on her cheek. He said, oh, love. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. How am I going to get out of the forest? I'll help you. I'll help you. And Madness took her by the hand and led her out of the forest. And that's why, my friends, to this day, love is blind. And wherever you find love, my friends, madness is usually close behind. That is one of hundreds of stories that I carry in my work as a storyteller. But a big reason why I became a storyteller was because of something that happened to me here in Galway in 2003. I was a student at the University of Galway. And late one night, I ended up in one of the old lecture theatres, you know, one of those big ones with the 400 seats. There was only 30 people in there that night. They were all coming to see this man was going to be telling stories. So there I was, sat by myself. And out he walked. And he just stood there. And they started talking. And he was telling old Irish myth. And the strangest thing happened to me. I was sat there, listening, and then the room disappeared. And suddenly, I could see the myth in front of me. I was watching the gods and goddesses walking around me. I was inside the mythic landscape, but I could still see him, and he was still talking. But time and space had changed. And I was transformed. So I left that night with this enormous feeling that I didn't know what to do with. A couple of years later, I'd finally gotten enough stories to become a storyteller. And so I'm standing in a school in Galway, and I've got a sea of children in front of me, and I'm in the middle of telling a story. And in the middle of the story, I look at all their faces. And I realize all their faces look almost exactly the same. And it was really strange. But I had to keep going. So I just went back to the story. Thought it was probably just an anomaly. Then the second time I told stories, that happened. Then it happened a third time. Then I saw adults doing it. And then I realized what I was looking at was probably what had happened to me in 2003. And it's the same look. Wide eyes, mouth drops open, body leans forward, or body leans back. And I watch people fall into that state inside a story. And the best way I can describe it is it's part wonder, it's part imagining, and it's part creating. And when the adults would come up to me, and they've come up to my friends who are storytellers and use the exact same words all over the world, adults will say things like, I haven't felt like that since I was 5. And I got to wondering, is 5 the last time someone told them a story? Or is 5 the last time they had that feeling in their body? And I think it's really important, that feeling. I call it the light fantastic. You can never be guaranteed it's going to happen. You just have to hope that it will. And I wanted to talk to you about it, but it's a little bit dangerous to talk about. It's a little bit risky. Because most artists, when you start talking about things like creativity and wonder, well, people are afraid that if you talk about it, you might break it. Do you ever hear of, Isaac Newton? The scientist Isaac Newton? In the 1600s, he discovered the light prism. Do you know about this? Where he figured out that if you took white light and you refracted it, you'd get all the colors of the rainbow. It was an amazing discovery, right? Well, a local poet by the name of John Keats got very angry at him, taking his science, wrecking the rainbow for everybody. Put it in a poem. He said he's unweaving the rainbow. The idea that if you look at mystery too long, you might break it. But you see, I don't think that's true. I've been looking at this state for 19 years, and it's astonishing when it happens. It's absolutely astonishing. And I'm a bit guided by the work of a favorite poet of mine, and her name is Mary Oliver. Pay attention, be astonished, tell about it. The reason I draw our attention to this state of wonder and imagining and creating is because I think that state makes us stronger. It makes us more courageous. It makes us braver and better able to take risks. And I have seen it transform people from one state to another. I don't think it's just the domain of children. I think it belongs to all of us. And I mean it can transform. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I was in California at a storytelling festival, doing shows and all of that, joining other tellers on stage. But every storytelling festival, they say, will you do a workshop? I said, absolutely. So I go into one of these little side rooms, 22 people, and they've never told a story in their life, and I'm going to bring them some stories. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I'm telling them a story that they're going to play with and break open. And one of the things I always do is I change up the groups. So like you two are sat together, but on the second exercise, I'm going to break you up, right? So you have fresh ears for someone to listen to your next story. So I go to break up the groups, and this woman says, I'm going to work with my husband for the whole time. I said, oh, great, yeah, absolutely. So I left those two together, and everyone else moved around. Got to the end of the workshop, everybody went off. She hung around. She came up to me, she said, thank you very much. I said, oh, yeah, you're welcome. It's a fun workshop. She said, did you notice my husband? Yeah, I thought he was great. He retold the story. He was asking great questions. Yeah. She said, did you notice that he had Alzheimer's? I said, what? She said, yeah, he has Alzheimer's. That's the most coherent I have seen him in more than a year. A few years after that, I'm in Birmingham, and I'm in a school, and I'm doing that thing where I'm giving them stories, and we're working with stories. So they've got the story now, and I'm going around saying, you're going to be the storyteller, you're going to be the director. Yeah, you're going to be the storyteller, you'll be the director. I get to this little lad, and I say, you're the storyteller. And his friend looks at me and goes, no, miss, he doesn't speak. I go, right, you don't speak, Grant. Well, then you be the storyteller, you be the director. And I look at the quiet one, I say, but you're the observer, yeah? You keep an eye on them. So they do the exercise, they each take turns, and I come back around, I'm asking everybody, how was it? Someone like, that was really hard, I loved it, that was really tricky, whatever it was. I get to our little trio. I ask the storyteller, how was it? Yeah, it was harder than I thought it was going to be. Director, how was it? I really liked being a director, it was great. I turn to the little kid and I say, and how were they at it? They were really good. He was a much better director than he says, and I really liked the storyteller. Great. And I walked away, and as I walked away, the teacher came running over to me. She got really close to me so she could whisper, and she said, what did you do? And I said, what do you mean? She said, that boy is a selective mute. He hasn't spoken in 4 years because of a trauma that happened in his life. What did you do? I said, I did nothing. I just asked him a question. But I thought about that for years. And what I got to thinking was that this state of wonder and imagining and creating is such a powerful, safe, and incredible space that he was able to take that risk. So I advocate for it now. I hang out with it as much as possible. I'm near it or thinking about it or trying to share it with people. Because I think if we pay attention to it, like Mary Oliver says, pay attention to how it feels in your body whenever you fall into that state. For me, my chest kind of softens and my body expands, like I don't know where my fingers end and the world begins. But for you, it might be tingles or goosebumps. So pay attention to it. Be astonished, she says. Well, I say go towards it. So maybe it's storytelling, or maybe it's music, or maybe it's looking at the stars, or watching a murmuration. Go towards the thing that gives you that state. Because I'm telling you, my friends, it will make you stronger and more courageous and more creative than you ever thought possible. So let me leave you with a story. Once long, long ago, long before our time, there was a man walking and wandering through the world. That's how he made his way. He had no fixed home. He had no fixed job. He would learn as he went. So this one day he was walking, and as he crested a hill, he looked down below, he saw a village. New village, new people, good stuff. And then he saw that he'd come to the graveyard first. What better way to get to know a village than to meet the people who came here before? So he made his way down the hill, past the little stone wall, under the yew tree, and in. And he just picked a grave at random. Joseph Martin McNamara died 7 years, 6 months, 3 days. Oh, that's very sad. Picking a child's grave. I'll just pick another one. So he went 3 rows over and 7 graves down, and there he saw Jane Sarah Murphy, died 11 years, 10 months, 2 days. What are the chances of that? I'll pick a 3rd grave. So he went to the far side of the graveyard, right down to the corner, and there, Jane Sarah McCarthy, died 13 years, 2 months, 1 day. And he was so struck by that, he started crying. And he was marching out of the graveyard when there's a woman passing, and she said, why are you crying? He said, why are all your children dying? She said, what? No, they're not. Oh, she said, you're not from around here, are you? He said, no. She said, come here to me. Sit down under this yew tree till I tell you a thing or two. And so they sat under the tree. He said, what? She said, well, we have a unusual tradition in our village. Whenever a baby is born, we give them a blank book and a pencil. And for the first couple of years, obviously, they can't write in the book, but their parents can. And they write in the book little moments, you know, their first smile, their first laugh, their first song, their first steps. And then when the baby's old enough to hold the pencil themselves, they start writing in their moments. First time they climb a tree. First time they make their parents proud. First sandwich. All the important moments in life. And whenever that person dies, however old, we go to their house, we get their book, and we count all the moments of joy and wonder and challenge and adventure. And we count what all those moments add up to. And whatever they add up to in days, weeks, months, and years, that's what we put on their grave. So you see, my friend, there's no need to weep.